What happens when the glitz and glamour of Hollywood collide with the rigid traditions of royalty? When one of the world's most famous comedians takes aim at one of the world's most scrutinized women, live, in front of a global audience, the result is explosive, unforgettable, and utterly viral. Picture this: the 2025 Gotham Film Awards. A sea of celebrities dazzles on the red carpet. Cameras flash incessantly, capturing every designer gown, every perfectly coiffed hairstyle, every practiced smile. The atmosphere is electric, charged with anticipation. But beneath the glittering facade, tension simmers. Because this exact night, would change the narrative for Meghan Markle in ways no PR team could prepare for, no media strategist could spin, and no royal advisor could contain. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The event starts like any other high-profile awards show. The celebrities arrive in limousines, stepping onto a carpet that seems to stretch endlessly, adorned with gold, velvet ropes, and a frenzy of flashing bulbs. Social media is alive with speculation. Fans are taking bets on which stars will dominate the night, who will have the most shocking wardrobe, and which performances will become instant classics. Everyone expects the usual: red carpet glamour, a few witty jokes, and a night of applause and celebration. But something, or rather someone, has other plans. Enter Meghan Markle. Her arrival is nothing short of cinematic. Cameras swivel, capturing her every movement. Paparazzi jockey for the perfect shot, their lenses almost vibrating from the intensity. She smiles, waves, and poses, exuding the calm confidence of someone used to scrutiny, someone who knows the world is watching. But the air feels different this night. The usual buzz is tinged with a whisper of anticipation, a sense that something monumental is about to unfold. You can almost feel it, a subtle shift in energy, the quiet before the storm. Meanwhile, backstage, Chris Rock prepares. He's no stranger to commanding a room, to making the powerful laugh and squirm with equal precision. Tonight, however, he isn't just performing for laughs. He's stepping onto a stage that's part comedy, part battlefield, part global spectacle. Chris has always had a reputation for biting commentary, for skewering celebrities with a mix of sharp humor and brutal honesty. And tonight, the target is clear, though few in the audience anticipate just how far he will go. As the lights dim, the music swells, and the cameras cut to the stage, the audience shifts in their seats. A hush falls over the crowd. Chris Rock steps into the spotlight, microphone in hand, and a grin that promises mischief and truth. He opens with casual charm, drawing laughs with a few warm-up jokes. But then, like a well-aimed arrow, he pivots, locking his gaze onto Meghan Markle. The tension is palpable. Every word that follows is calculated, deliberate. He's not just telling a joke. He's delivering a spectacle, a performance that straddles the line between comedy and confrontation. Ever seen a yacht be *TCH in real life? He says, and the room freezes for a split second. Laughter erupts, then gasps. Some in the audience are shocked, others are doubled over, unable to stop laughing. Social media ignites instantly. Clips go viral within seconds. Trending hashtags multiply like wildfire. Fans and critics alike react with rapid-fire intensity. The world is watching, and the world is talking. But what does Meghan do? How does she react when a single sentence can redefine public perception in the span of a heartbeat? And more importantly, how does this moment fit into the larger, intricate web of her public life, her royal legacy, and her Hollywood presence? Behind the scenes, chaos unfolds. Meghan's handlers scramble, whispering instructions, attempting to mitigate what is rapidly becoming an uncontainable spectacle. Security subtly shifts position, anticipating any potential fallout. Meanwhile, celebrities exchange glances, some clearly entertained, others stunned. Everyone knows this isn't just a joke. This is an event that will ripple through Hollywood, social media, and the tabloids for days, weeks, and months to come. The line between comedy and controversy has been crossed, and no one is quite sure how to react. As the night progresses, the joke spreads beyond the room. Fans upload clips to TikTok, Instagram, and X, sparking debates and viral reactions. Commentators dissect every word, every tone, every inflection. Memes flood the internet, ranging from humorous to scathing. News outlets scramble to report, to analyze, to provide context. The story takes on a life of its own, far beyond the confines of the Gotham Film Awards stage. And yet, for Meghan, the story is only beginning. What seems like a simple comedic line masks layers of emotional complexity, professional stakes, and personal challenges. The public sees laughter, but behind the scenes, the repercussions are far more intricate and intense. Why does this story matter now? Because it's not just about one joke, or one celebrity, or one royal figure. It's about power, perception, and the fine line between humor and humiliation. It's about how a single moment in the spotlight can rewrite narratives, alter reputations, and spark global debate. And it's about understanding the mechanics of fame, influence, and public scrutiny in a world where every action is amplified, every word dissected, and every expression broadcast to millions. And what comes next? That's where things get even more fascinating. Because Chris Rock's words didn't just land, they triggered a chain reaction. A chain reaction involving social media storms, celebrity gossip, royal commentary, and unexpected public allies and enemies. The ripple effects spread across continents, igniting debates, memes, and reactions that no one could have anticipated. The night that started as a celebration of film suddenly morphed into a cultural phenomenon, a real-time case study in fame, comedy, and controversy. Imagine being Meghan Markle in that moment. Cameras flashing, the audience laughing, some in shock, some amused, and millions online watching every reaction. How do you maintain composure? How do you navigate a world where a single word can be dissected endlessly? The pressure is unimaginable, yet the spectacle continues. Meanwhile, Chris Rock remains calm, confident, and unapologetically bold. His humor is cutting, his timing perfect, his audience captivated. And the world watches, caught between laughter and disbelief, unable to look away. By the end of the introduction, you're left with an undeniable curiosity. What happens after the joke? How does Meghan respond? How does Hollywood react? And how does this single moment redefine both the awards night and her public persona? The backstage chaos, the social media eruption, the unexpected reactions from celebrities, fans, and even royalty. These are the pieces that make this story far more than a simple joke. They make it a phenomenon, a cultural moment, a turning point that demands to be explored in detail. What if I told you that the calm, glittering exterior of a Hollywood awards night can hide a storm so powerful it can shake celebrities, royals, and fans around the world? That's exactly what happened on the night of the 2025 Gotham Film Awards. A night that began with smiles, flashbulbs, and champagne would end up etched in history as the night Chris Rock took aim at Meghan Markle, and the world couldn't stop watching. But let's rewind, because understanding the tension, the glitz, and the subtle undercurrents of this night is key to appreciating just how explosive the events that followed truly were. From the moment the first limousine rolled up to the red carpet, the atmosphere was electric. The lights bounced off polished cars, and the cameras clicked in a rhythm that almost felt like a heartbeat, a pulse of anticipation that everyone could feel. Celebrities stepped out in gowns and tuxedos so perfectly styled they seemed sculpted for the cameras. Some smiled naturally, others practiced a more calculated pose. But beneath the smiles, under the shimmer of jewelry and designer fabric, there was a current of competition, tension, and unspoken rivalries. In Hollywood, every glance, every nod, every whispered comment carries weight. And this night, that weight was heavier than usual. Meghan Markle's entrance was nothing short of cinematic. Her gown shimmered under the lights, a soft gold that caught the camera in a way that seemed almost predestined. Her hair was perfectly coiffed, her makeup flawless. She moved with a grace and confidence that comes from years of being watched by millions. Yet, even with all the preparation, there was something different in her presence that night. Perhaps it was the subtle tension in her team, the nervous energy of assistants adjusting her train, or the quiet but palpable awareness that every step she took would be scrutinized, dissected, and discussed for weeks. The crowd reacted predictably at first. Flashbulbs popped like fireworks, fans cheered, and cameras zoomed in on her every gesture. But there was an underlying charge in the air, a subtle electricity that hinted at the storm to come. People in the audience, seasoned industry veterans, leaned forward slightly, as if sensing that tonight would not be like any other awards night. Something about the energy, the alignment of stars, both literally on the Hollywood walk and figuratively in the cultural sky, suggested that history was about to be written in real time. While the red carpet buzzed, inside the venue, the preparations were equally meticulous. Stagehands moved with precision, adjusting lights, checking microphones, and ensuring that every angle was ready for the millions watching from home. The producers of the Gotham Film Awards knew they had a night to remember, and everything had to be perfect. But no one could have predicted how one man, armed with a microphone, a sharp wit, and an unshakable confidence, could turn this carefully orchestrated night into a global spectacle. Chris Rock, backstage, was in his own world. He reviewed notes, paced, and ran through jokes in his head. But this wasn't just another performance for him. He knew the stakes were high. This audience wasn't just Hollywood, it was the world. And one particular individual had caught his attention: Meghan Markle. Her past, her persona, her dual life as a former royal and a Hollywood star made her a target ripe for satire, but it was also delicate territory. Chris Rock had a reputation for navigating those lines with precision. He knew when to land a punchline, when to let the audience fill in the gaps, and when to push just far enough to ignite conversation without crossing an invisible line that could backfire. As the show began, the energy inside the theater shifted. The applause echoed through the walls. The cameras cut to different celebrities, and the audience waited for the first hint of humor, the first spark of excitement beyond the scripted speeches. Chris Rock walked on stage, the spotlight hitting him at just the right angle. He held the microphone, looked at the audience with a grin, and began his set. At first, the jokes were safe, warming the room with laughter and applause. But then, as he scanned the crowd, his eyes landed on Meghan. And the room seemed to sense the shift. The laughter became sharper, the silence heavier. It was subtle at first, a comment here, a side glance there, but the tension built. In the audience, some people shifted in their seats, whispering under their breath. Cameras captured every reaction: raised eyebrows, nervous smiles, anticipatory stares. Social media, monitoring live feeds, began to pick up on the undercurrent. Fans and viewers at home sensed that something significant was unfolding, even if they didn't yet know what. The night was no longer just about celebrating film. It had evolved into a theater of social dynamics, celebrity politics, and public intrigue. Back on the red carpet, Meghan's team noticed the subtle change as well. Assistants adjusted her posture, whispered directions, and tried to maintain a composed exterior. Security subtly repositioned themselves, anticipating potential reactions. The air was thick with anticipation, and the audience could almost taste the moment before it exploded. Every camera angle, every microphone, every whispered conversation seemed to converge toward a single point: the stage, the microphone, and Chris Rock's gaze. And then it happened. The joke landed. A single line, delivered with impeccable timing, and the room shifted. Some laughed instantly. Others gasped. Cameras flashed as the words echoed through the theater, and social media erupted in real time. But the true impact wasn't immediate. The real effect of that moment, on Meghan, on Hollywood, and on the public, would unfold gradually, layer by layer, like a domino effect that no one could stop. At that moment, no one could predict how history would remember this night. Would it be seen as a comedic triumph, a scandalous humiliation, or a cultural turning point? Would Meghan respond, retreat, or rise above? And how would the world react when every frame, every word, and every reaction was dissected, analyzed, and debated endlessly? These questions hung in the air, unanswered, as the awards ceremony continued, unaware that the stakes had just escalated dramatically. The night had begun as a celebration of film, of artistry, of Hollywood's finest. But beneath the lights, behind the smiles, and under the veneer of glamour, a storm was brewing. One joke, one line, one glance could change everything, and the world was about to witness it. The calm before the storm, the tension before the punchline, was palpable. And when the moment finally arrived, no one, neither the audience in the theater nor the millions watching online, would be prepared for the fallout. What happens when a comedian steps onto a stage not just to entertain, but to unsettle, provoke, and make history? That's exactly the moment the 2025 Gotham Film Awards reached its turning point. Chris Rock walked out under the spotlight, microphone in hand, his eyes scanning the audience with a mix of mischief and precision. At first glance, he looked calm, almost casual. But anyone familiar with Chris Rock knows that calmness in him is always the prelude to chaos. The kind of chaos that makes millions of people laugh, gasp, and immediately start debating what they just witnessed. The audience cheered. The cameras zoomed in. Celebrities smiled, waved, and clapped. It was the typical entrance of a comedic legend. But tonight, the atmosphere carried an unspoken tension. Behind the laughter and the applause, there was a silent question in everyone's mind. What is Chris going to do this time? And for one person in particular, that question carried an even heavier weight. Chris began his opening routine with a few classic, safe jokes. The warm-up, the way any comedian sets the room at ease. He talked about Hollywood absurdities, the predictable tropes of awards shows, and the quirks of celebrity culture. The crowd responded warmly, laughing and nodding in recognition. But then, as he weaved through his set, his eyes locked on Meghan Markle. There was a brief pause, a subtle shift in his tone, and suddenly the audience felt the change in energy. This wasn't just a routine comedy act anymore. Imagine it. The lights are bright, the cameras are rolling, the audience is live, and millions are watching online. Chris Rock's focus is precise. Every movement, every expression, every pause is calculated to maximize impact. The jokes start to sharpen. They become less general, more pointed, and the tension in the room begins to build. Meghan, seated elegantly among other celebrities, appears composed, but those who know her can sense the slight tightening of her jaw, the flicker of awareness in her eyes. She knows, instinctively, that she has become the target of the evening. Ever notice how some people show up, and you instantly know they're living in a different world? Chris says casually, smiling, letting the comment hang in the air. The audience chuckles lightly, some leaning in, sensing there's more to come. And then comes the pivot. Chris's delivery is impeccable, timed to perfection, every syllable a drumbeat in a building crescendo. Yeah, and sometimes, that world has a yacht attached to it. The words land, punctuating the room with a mixture of shock and amusement. The audience reacts immediately. Some laugh uncontrollably. Some gasp, unsure how to respond. Cameras swing back to Meghan, capturing the subtle, restrained reactions that speak louder than words. Social media explodes within seconds. Clips are shared, hashtags trend, and people at home pause mid-scroll to see what all the noise is about. Memes begin forming almost instantly. Screenshots of Meghan's poised expression juxtaposed with Chris's smirk, playful text overlays, and commentary from fans and comedians alike. Backstage, the production team notices the shift. Directors whisper to each other, concerned about how far Chris is taking the joke. Assistants glance toward Meghan's team, who are whispering frantically among themselves, trying to assess her reaction. Security subtly moves closer, anticipating any potential movement or escalation. What started as a controlled, rehearsed awards show has become unpredictable. Every eye is on Chris Rock, every thought is racing. How far will he go, and what will Meghan do next? Chris, however, remains unfazed. He leans into the microphone, his voice steady, carrying the weight of both humor and audacity. He doesn't just make a joke, he constructs a narrative, weaving public perception, past controversies, and celebrity scrutiny into a single, razor-sharp line. The crowd hangs on his every word. Some are laughing with delight, some are nervously glancing around, and some are already reaching for their phones to capture this moment before it disappears. And then comes the nuance that makes this moment unforgettable. Chris doesn't just joke about Meghan's past or her royal connections. He comments on the paradox of her life, the collision between Hollywood and royalty, the public persona versus private reality. It's clever, calculated, and cutting. People watching begin to realize that this isn't just entertainment. It's commentary, satire, and confrontation rolled into one. The room feels alive with anticipation, a collective realization that they are witnessing something that will not be forgotten. Meanwhile, Meghan's composure is fascinating. On the surface, she sits gracefully, maintaining the poise she's known for, yet subtle gestures betray her awareness of the impact. Her eyes follow Chris, her posture shifts minutely, her hands rest on her lap with a tension that only those watching closely can detect. Every second is measured, but the world outside sees only her calm exterior. The drama is happening in real time, layered between what is visible and what is internal, between the spectacle on stage and the undercurrents behind it. The audience begins to murmur. Some are whispering to their neighbors, commenting on the boldness of the joke. Others lean forward, captivated by the audacity of Chris Rock's performance. Social media continues to buzz, with reaction videos popping up, clips being replayed, and fans taking sides. Some cheering Chris's comedic genius, others defending Meghan's dignity. The tension is palpable, not just in the theater, but across the world. Millions of people are watching, debating, and reacting simultaneously, all because one man dared to take a comedic risk that teetered on the edge of controversy. As Chris continues, he ups the ante. His tone becomes sharper, his jokes more pointed, but always delivered with that characteristic grin and impeccable timing. The audience is caught between laughter and disbelief. Every pause, every glance, every rhetorical flourish is amplified. It's not just a performance. It's an event that demands attention, that compels everyone to react, to engage, to witness. And then, the moment arrives. The line that would define the night, spark memes, ignite debates, and become the centerpiece of every conversation for days to come. But the beauty of Chris Rock's timing is that he doesn't rush. He sets it up slowly, like a predator circling its target. The audience, and Meghan herself, feel the tension build with each word. He leans in, smirks knowingly, and delivers the punchline. The room reacts instantly. Some burst out laughing, others remain stunned, and the cameras capture every reaction in real time. Social media erupts. News outlets scramble. Fans dissect every word. And backstage, the world of production and security braces for what comes next. And yet, despite all the chaos, Chris Rock remains composed. Calm, confident, and unapologetically bold. He holds the stage as the epicenter of one of the most talked about moments of the year. His performance isn't just about humor. It's about power, perception, and the audacity to confront a narrative that many thought untouchable. And as the applause and gasps continue, everyone in that theater, and millions more around the world, realizes this night is no longer just an award show. It's a cultural event, a spectacle that will be dissected, debated, and remembered for years to come. But what happened immediately after his line, backstage and beyond, is where the story truly explodes. The ripple effects reach beyond Hollywood, beyond social media, and into every corner where Meghan Markle's name carries weight. Allies, enemies, supporters, and critics all react in ways no one could predict, setting the stage for the chaos, drama, and intrigue that would define the rest of the night. What happens when a single joke doesn't just entertain, but instantly shifts the mood of a room, the perception of a person, and the conversation of millions online? That's exactly what occurred the moment Chris Rock delivered his first pointed joke targeting Meghan Markle at the 2025 Gotham Film Awards. Up until this point, the evening had been glamorous, polished, and meticulously choreographed. Cameras clicked. Celebrities smiled. Red carpets shimmered. But in the split second after that first line landed, everything changed. Chris had been warming up the audience, easing them into laughter with quips about Hollywood absurdities, award show cliches, and predictable celebrity antics. His timing was impeccable, his energy infectious, and the crowd responded accordingly. But now, as he pivoted from general comedy to something far more targeted, the audience sensed the shift before even fully processing the words. Chris's gaze, sharp and deliberate, landed on Meghan. The subtle pause before the punchline made the air thicker, more charged, like the instant before lightning strikes. Ever noticed? He began casually, letting his tone linger just enough to draw attention. Some people walk into a room, and you can tell they're living on a different planet. Laughter rippled lightly through the audience. Heads tilted, cameras adjusted, and the crowd leaned in, anticipating where he was going. Then came the twist. The setup and the punchline. intertwined so seamlessly that few could predict what was coming next. And sometimes, Chris continued, smiling that trademark grin, that planet has a yacht attached. The words landed like a cannon shot. A mixture of gasps, laughter, and nervous whispers filled the theater. The room split into reactions almost immediately. Some were doubled over with laughter, their delight bordering on disbelief. Others froze, unsure how to process the audacity of the remark. Cameras swung toward Meghan, capturing the subtle shift in her posture, the slight narrowing of her eyes, and the tight press of her lips. She was composed, but only just. Anyone familiar with her public appearances could sense the careful restraint behind every measured expression. The reaction didn't stop there. Within seconds, the joke began to ripple outward. Social media ignited in real time. Clips were uploaded, viewed, and shared in moments. Hashtags trended almost instantaneously, capturing every variation of the joke, the reaction, and the ensuing commentary. Fans debated whether it was a harmless quip, a pointed insult, or something far more culturally significant. Memes began forming immediately, combining screenshots of Meghan's stoic expression with Chris's mischievous grin. Commentary videos on YouTube and TikTok dissected every syllable, every pause, every nuance. What started as a single joke was now a global phenomenon. Backstage, the intensity escalated. Meghan's team, trained for public scrutiny, scrambled to maintain composure. They whispered instructions, adjusted her posture, and tried to anticipate how she would respond next. Security shifted subtly, prepared to intervene if the situation escalated, though no physical threat existed. Even the producers of the event realized the delicate balance between entertainment and controversy had tilted dramatically. One line, delivered with perfect comedic timing, had created a ripple effect that was already spilling beyond the theater walls. Chris Rock, however, remained unshaken. Every expression, every gesture, every inflection was intentional. He wasn't just telling a joke, he was orchestrating a spectacle, one that would resonate far beyond the confines of the Gotham Film Awards. The brilliance of his delivery lay in the tension he created between humor and audacity. The audience didn't just hear a joke. They felt the weight of the comment, the shock of the moment, and the thrill of witnessing something few had the courage to say out loud. Meanwhile, Meghan faced the impossible task of navigating public perception in real time. The audience's reaction, combined with the viral explosion online, created a pressure cooker scenario. Composure was essential. Any overt reaction could be misinterpreted, amplified, and dissected endlessly. Every subtle gesture mattered. Every blink, every shift in posture, every glance was recorded, scrutinized, and uploaded. Millions of viewers were watching, and the tiniest sign of emotion could become a headline in seconds. The stakes were monumental, and Meghan was acutely aware of them. The juxtaposition was striking. Chris Rock, confident, composed, commanding the room with a microphone and a joke. Meghan Markle, poised yet tense, navigating a sea of cameras, audience reactions, and viral scrutiny. The energy in the theater was electric, a mix of laughter, shock, anticipation, and fascination. The joke had landed, but the fallout was just beginning. The room, the social media universe, and the public at large were now participants in an unfolding cultural moment. Analysts would later call this moment a masterclass in timing and audacity. Comedians dissected Chris's approach, noting the way he built suspense, observed his target, and delivered a punchline that was both funny and provocative. Media outlets debated whether the joke crossed a line or redefined the boundaries of public comedy. Fans argued passionately online, defending Chris, Meghan, or neither, depending on perspective. And through it all, the world watched, riveted, unable to look away. Yet, the story doesn't stop with laughter or shock. The first joke set in motion a chain of events that would ripple throughout the night and beyond. Backstage whispers turned into strategic planning. Social media trends influenced news coverage. Friends and critics of Meghan began making statements, some supportive, some critical. Celebrities who witnessed the moment in real time had reactions that would later surface in interviews, gossip columns, and viral clips. Every element of this single joke, the delivery, the audience reaction, the viral response, combined to create a moment that was far more than comedic. It was cultural, psychological, and highly charged emotionally. The tension between humor and humiliation, between public scrutiny and personal composure, became the heart of the night. Meghan's poised exterior masked an internal negotiation: how to respond, whether to respond, and how to navigate the instant global debate that had erupted around her. Meanwhile, Chris Rock continued, confident, unfazed, playing with timing, energy, and audience perception. The room alternated between laughter and incredulity, a collective sense that something unprecedented was happening. And the audience, both live and online, could sense that the first joke was merely the opening move in a much larger game. What would Chris say next? How far would he push? Would Meghan react publicly, privately, or strategically in silence? Every person watching knew they were witnessing the setup for something bigger, something that would leave lasting impressions on both the world of Hollywood and the perception of Meghan Markle herself. But the story didn't end with the first laugh, the first gasp, or the first trending hashtag. No, that was only the beginning. Because the immediate aftermath, the subtle backstage reactions, the rising social media storm, and the tense silence among some audience members, was just a prelude. The next joke, the next line, and the moments that followed would escalate the night to a level no one anticipated. The first joke hit, the first reaction was captured, and yet, the stage was set for the even bigger, more shocking, more viral moments that were about to unfold. It was a moment that would be replayed, remixed, and dissected endlessly across the internet. Chris Rock's line. Those 3 words, "Yacht asterisk TCH," hit the air and landed like a thunderclap, instantly shifting the entire mood of the Gotham Film Awards. The audience didn't just laugh. They paused, blinked, gasped, and then laughed again. Some were horrified, some were in disbelief, and some, unable to resist, pulled out their phones to capture what they knew was a moment destined to go viral. But the real shock wasn't just in the words themselves. It was the timing, the audacity, and the precise delivery that made the joke unforgettable. Chris Rock had a genius for observation. He didn't pick Meghan randomly. He understood her global image, the way Hollywood sees her, the way the media frames her, and the way fans and critics interpret her every move. He knew that her public persona, caught between royalty and celebrity, made her simultaneously untouchable and hypervisible. That's what made the line so devastatingly effective. It wasn't a generic joke. It was targeted, sharp, and delivered with the kind of timing that only someone of Chris Rock's caliber could pull off. The moment the words left his mouth, the room reacted in waves. Cameras swiveled immediately toward Meghan. For a split second, the audience saw hesitation, a flicker of disbelief in her eyes, the almost imperceptible clenching of her jaw. She remained poised, but the tension was unmistakable. Everyone watching knew that this wasn't just a joke. It was a public calling out, a comedic statement that could ripple across social media, tabloids, and news outlets for weeks to come. Social media reacted faster than anyone could process. Within seconds, clips of Chris Rock delivering the line were uploaded, shared, and viewed by millions. Memes appeared, ranging from lighthearted commentary to scathing criticism. TikTok videos dissected the delivery, Instagram Reels replayed Meghan's subtle reaction, and X, formerly Twitter, exploded with thousands of posts debating the audacity, the humor, and the cultural implications of the joke. Every device in the world seemed to vibrate with the collective energy of that single line. Meanwhile, Meghan's team was scrambling. Security subtly shifted, whispering instructions, while assistants tried to gauge her next move. Social media monitors were already sending alerts, trending hashtags, viral clips, reaction metrics, painting a picture of just how big this had become in real time. The joke had transcended the theater. It wasn't just about laughter anymore. It had become a phenomenon, a cultural touchstone, and a moment that would define the night, her image, and the conversation around celebrity and royalty for weeks. Chris Rock, however, remained unbothered. Every twitch of his eyebrow, every smirk, every measured pause was deliberate. He was performing not just comedy but spectacle, controlling the room and, in many ways, controlling the narrative. The brilliance lay in his confidence. He knew the joke was dangerous, provocative, and headline-making, and he leaned into that energy. Laughter mixed with shock, and the audience couldn't decide whether to gasp, giggle, or applaud. That tension, that interplay between humor and audacity, is what made the moment unforgettable. The phrase, "yacht_tch," became an instant cultural reference. News outlets scrambled to report, bloggers offered hot takes, and commentators debated whether it was fair, cruel, or brilliant. Fans dissected the layers. Was Chris Rock critiquing privilege, celebrity culture, or Meghan personally? Was it satire, insult, or something else entirely? The ambiguity added fuel to the fire, creating endless debate, viral content, and a situation that no one could control. And the audience in the theater felt it. The laughter was mixed with nervous energy, whispered commentary, and sideways glances. Celebrities reacted in real time, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others chuckling quietly, and a few visibly struggling to mask their amusement. The energy of the room had shifted. What started as a glamorous awards show had morphed into a cultural spectacle, a live case study in comedy, influence, and social media virality. Behind the scenes, Meghan had to make a decision in real time. Her options were limited: respond publicly and risk amplifying the joke, stay silent and risk seeming passive, or navigate the subtle middle ground that only the experienced could manage. Every micro-expression mattered. A blink, a shift of weight, a subtle glance could become fodder for news outlets, memes, and late-night commentary. And all of this happened within seconds, in real time, in front of a live audience and millions online. Meanwhile, Chris Rock continued, feeding off the energy he had created. He didn't stop at the joke. He leaned into it, observing reactions, allowing the tension to build, and carefully deciding how far to push. The audience, riveted, laughed, gasped, and whispered in equal measure. Social media engagement continued to spike, trending topics multiplied, and the phrase, "yacht_tch," exploded across platforms. Clips were replayed repeatedly, memes were created, and commentary videos dissected the joke frame by frame. The joke had taken on a life of its own. The genius of the moment wasn't just in humor. It was in timing, delivery, and the perfect collision of celebrity culture, royal scrutiny, and comedic audacity. Chris Rock had crafted a line that would not only define the night, but also spark global conversation. The ripple effect was immediate. Late-night shows, podcasts, news outlets, and social media commentators began analyzing, debating, and commenting in real time. The moment was no longer contained to the theater. It had become a worldwide phenomenon. Yet the tension didn't end with the laugh. The real story was unfolding behind the smiles and reactions. Backstage whispers turned to strategic considerations. Social media managers assessed damage and opportunity. Fans debated whether to defend Meghan or criticize Chris. And the subtle, tense calculations of how this would affect public perception, reputation, and influence were being made in real time. The joke had landed, but the fallout, much larger, much more complicated, and far-reaching, was only beginning. The "yacht_tch" comment wasn't just a punchline. It was a spark, igniting reactions that would explode throughout Hollywood, the royal community, and social media alike. It set the tone for the rest of the night, a chain reaction of commentary, scandal, humor, and debate. And for Meghan Markle, the world's eyes weren't just on her. They were scrutinizing every subtle reaction, every wordless response, every calculated expression. The joke had been delivered, the audience had reacted, and the stage was now set for what would come next. But what no one realized at that moment was that this was only the beginning. The first wave of reactions, the viral explosion, and the public debate were just the surface. What followed backstage, across social media, and in the weeks afterward would change perceptions, create allies and adversaries, and redefine what it meant to be both a public figure and a global icon. The "yacht_tch" line was unforgettable. But the real story behind it, the fallout, and the reactions it provoked were far more extraordinary than anyone could have anticipated. The world had witnessed the punchline, but the aftermath, the controversy, and the cultural ripple it triggered would unfold in ways no one could predict. And as the night progressed, the tension only intensified, setting the stage for events that would shock, astonish, and captivate everyone who dared to look. The moment the words "Yacht asterisk TCH" echoed through the Gotham Film Awards theater, the room transformed. Laughter, shock, and whispers collided, creating an energy so thick you could almost feel it pulsing through the audience. For many in attendance, it wasn't just a joke. It was an event, a live performance that blurred the lines between comedy, scandal, and spectacle. Every eye turned, every camera swiveled, every mind raced. And at the center of it all sat Meghan Markle, her expression a study in poise, tension, and subtle calculation. The first wave of reactions was instantaneous. Some attendees erupted into laughter, clapping and leaning forward as if pulled in by the audacity of the line. They marveled at Chris Rock's timing, his nerve, and his ability to take a room by storm. Others, more cautious or sympathetic to Meghan, gasped and whispered, exchanging glances as though trying to process what had just occurred. Every reaction, even the smallest twitch or sideways glance, was captured by countless cameras and broadcasted in real time. Cameras cut across the room. A well-known Hollywood actress covered her mouth in surprise, eyes wide. A veteran director shook his head, laughing but incredulous. Some journalists scribbled notes furiously, realizing that they were witnessing a story that would dominate headlines and trending feeds by morning. Social media feeds erupted within seconds, clips circulating before anyone had even left the theater. Fans debated, dissected, and commented simultaneously. Some lauded Chris for his boldness, others criticized him for targeting Meghan, and many simply watched in awe at the spectacle unfolding before them. The backstage environment was just as charged. Meghan's team, trained for these kinds of moments, whispered urgently, assessing damage control and gauging her mood. Security subtly repositioned, aware of the tension in the room but confident that there would be no physical confrontation. Assistants fidgeted, adjusting gowns, whispering instructions, and trying to maintain the veneer of calm. Every person backstage understood the gravity of the moment. What was a joke to some had now escalated into a full-blown cultural phenomenon, and the world was watching. Meanwhile, the celebrities who had been seated near Meghan were caught in a web of reactions. Some exchanged knowing looks, others tried to stifle laughter, and a few leaned in to discuss quietly what they thought of the joke. Each reaction varied, reflecting a mix of personality, relationship to Meghan, and instinctive response to the unexpected audacity of Chris Rock. Conversations were cautious but electric, as if everyone was quietly acknowledging. This was not just entertainment. It was history in motion. The audience reaction also highlighted the unique dynamic of fame and scrutiny. For decades, celebrities have been conditioned to react carefully in public, knowing that every expression is photographed, recorded, and uploaded. Tonight was no different, but with Chris Rock's joke, the stakes were even higher. Every smile, blink, or subtle shift in posture could be analyzed, memed, and dissected across millions of screens worldwide. Meghan's composure became a performance within a performance, a delicate dance of emotion, restraint, and public image management. Social media, however, was merciless and instantaneous. Within seconds, the hashtag #YachtBitch began trending on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Clips of the line circulated with thousands of captions, reactions, and memes. Influencers created commentary videos, analyzing facial expressions, delivery timing, and even the historical context of Meghan's public persona. Podcasts paused their live streams to discuss the moment, and late-night hosts immediately cued jokes, dissecting Chris Rock's audacity while speculating about Meghan's reaction. The room's response became a mirror for the world outside, amplifying every nuance and heightening the stakes. Back in the theater, the tension was palpable. Some celebrities whispered under their breath, debating the joke's fairness. Others leaned back in their seats, letting the moment wash over them as they absorbed the audacity, timing, and cultural implications. For some, the line was just clever comedy. For others, it was a masterstroke of confrontation. And for Meghan, the awareness that millions were watching her reaction created an invisible pressure, one she had trained to navigate her entire public life. Every blink, every subtle gesture mattered. Every microexpression could define the narrative. The ripple effect of audience reactions wasn't limited to immediate laughter or whispers. It extended into the way the show would be covered in the media, discussed in social circles, and shared on digital platforms. Producers noticed the shift, realizing that a controlled event had now turned into something uncontainable. The first joke had cracked the door to something bigger. A chain reaction of viral content, celebrity commentary, and public fascination that would unfold over the next several days and possibly months. Among the audience, there were subtle alliances and unspoken judgments forming in real time. Some attendees silently cheered Chris Rock for his bravery, recognizing the audacity required to speak so boldly in a room of high-profile figures. Others felt discomfort, seeing the joke as a potential overstep, a line that might not have needed to be crossed. The spectrum of reactions, from delight to unease, was precisely what made the moment so compelling. Comedy had transformed into a cultural litmus test, and everyone in the room, knowingly or not, was part of the experiment. Meanwhile, Meghan remained the focal point. Her reaction, or lack thereof, was analyzed in microseconds. Cameras captured her subtle adjustments. The tilt of her head, the careful positioning of her hands, the almost imperceptible narrowing of her eyes. Observers speculated endlessly. Was she amused, annoyed, strategic, or planning her next move? The ambiguity amplified the impact, keeping both the live audience and global viewers in suspense. And behind the camera lenses, social media monitors tracked every second, predicting which clip, meme, or commentary would dominate the next cycle of viral content. By now, it was clear that the first joke was more than a comedic line. It was a cultural earthquake. The energy of the theater, the real-time analysis, and the global social media response combined to make this moment unforgettable. People were not just laughing. They were witnessing the collision of Hollywood, royalty, and media spectacle in a way that demanded attention. The audience's reaction, split between laughter, shock, and awe, captured the essence of why this night would be remembered long after the red carpet lights dimmed. And yet, the audience reaction was just the tip of the iceberg. Behind the scenes, backstage whispers were growing louder. Allies of Meghan debated whether she should respond in some controlled fashion, while fans and critics of Chris Rock speculated about the strategic brilliance of his delivery. The moment had created layers of tension, drama, and cultural intrigue that no one could contain. But the story didn't stop there. The audience's reaction set the stage for the next escalation, the moment when Chris Rock leaned in further, taking aim with his full comedic precision. The first line had cracked the room open. The social media storm was beginning to swirl, and the tension had reached a point where everyone, both live and online, knew that the night was far from over. While the audience in the theater roared, gasped, and debated, the real drama was unfolding just out of view. Backstage, what happens behind the cameras, away from the flashbulbs and microphones, often tells the story of an event more vividly than what the public sees. Tonight, backstage was a whirlwind of tension, strategy, and barely controlled panic, all triggered by a single, devastatingly sharp joke. *TCH. As soon as the line landed, Meghan Markle's team went into high alert. Assistants whispered urgently among themselves, scanning her subtle reactions for any signs of discomfort or distress. Every micro-expression was scrutinized, the slight tightening of her lips, the imperceptible lift of her eyebrows, the way her hands rested perfectly composed on her lap. Each gesture was analyzed in real time, not just for immediate response, but for how it would look to the cameras that were capturing every angle. The stakes were enormous. One wrong move could escalate the situation further, providing fodder for social media and news outlets that were already exploding with clips of the joke. Security, trained to anticipate both physical and social disruption, subtly shifted positions. Their task wasn't just protection, it was anticipation. They had to predict reactions, potential confrontations, and any movement that might escalate the moment. For them, this was a balancing act, ensuring Meghan's safety without drawing attention to the heightened tension. It was an invisible dance of vigilance and control, made all the more complicated by the thousands of cameras and millions of live viewers online. Meanwhile, Meghan herself was a study in composed intensity. Years of navigating public scrutiny had prepared her for this moment, but nothing could fully insulate her from the immediate cultural shockwave that Chris Rock's line had triggered. Internally, she had to process multiple layers at once. The joke itself, the live audience reaction, the viral social media storm, and the inevitable media narrative that would follow. Maintaining poise in this environment is an art, and she executed it with meticulous precision, even as the backstage environment buzzed with whispers and subtle movements. Her assistants and PR team scrambled to anticipate the next wave of reactions. Phones were pressed into service, tracking trending hashtags, monitoring real-time tweets, and scanning every viral clip to predict potential fallout. Strategic discussions occurred in whispers. Should Meghan respond publicly later? Should she issue a statement? Or should she rely entirely on composed silence to maintain control of her image? Every option had risks, and the clock was ticking with each second that passed. The public wasn't waiting. They were reacting instantly, forming opinions, and creating content at a speed that no team could fully contain. Even the producers of the Gotham Film Awards were feeling the strain. What had been intended as a glamorous night celebrating cinema was now teetering on the edge of uncontrollable spectacle. Stage managers whispered into headsets, trying to gauge audience mood, actor reactions, and the trajectory of Chris Rock's performance. Cameras were repositioned, not to hide the moment, but to capture it in a way that maintained the show's polished presentation. Yet despite their efforts, the tension was palpable and visible on every monitor. Chris Rock, from the stage, seemed oblivious to, or perhaps entirely in control of, the chaos he was creating backstage. His delivery was flawless, his timing impeccable, and his gaze carried the perfect balance of playfulness and audacity. From where he stood, the audience was part of his performance. The cameras were instruments of amplification, and Meghan's poised reaction became an unspoken co-star in the unfolding spectacle. Every nuance mattered, and he understood the dynamics of perception better than anyone in the room. Backstage, the reactions weren't limited to Meghan's team. Other celebrities, producers, and guests who were off-camera had varying responses. Some were whispering in disbelief, others stifling laughter, and a few were already discussing the line's potential virality. Even without being visible to the cameras, their reactions contributed to the charged atmosphere. The backstage environment became a microcosm of the larger public reaction, a mix of awe, anxiety, strategy, and speculation. Social media was another layer of pressure entirely. Clips of the joke were being posted, viewed, and analyzed at lightning speed. Hashtags were trending, reaction videos multiplied, and commentary flooded platforms across the world. Meghan's team monitored everything with intensity, knowing that their next steps, what they said or didn't say, could influence the trajectory of her public image for months. The pace was dizzying, the stakes monumental, and the environment chaotic yet calculated. The adrenaline backstage was palpable. Assistants whispered, security subtly shifted, producers observed monitors, and Meghan maintained her composure like a seasoned strategist. The tension was a live wire, crackling with every second that passed. Everyone knew they were part of a moment that would be dissected for years, a rare intersection of comedy, celebrity, royalty, and instant global virality. Even the smallest gestures had consequences. A slight shift in posture, a tiny smile, a whispered remark, or even a glance could be captured by cameras and circulated worldwide. The pressure was relentless. And in that moment, backstage was a mix of controlled precision and barely contained chaos. A high-stakes chessboard where every move mattered, but the rules were constantly evolving. Yet amid the tension, there was also strategy. Meghan's team worked quietly but decisively. They discussed potential statements, gauged the media climate, and evaluated how to navigate the viral storm without escalating it further. Every second mattered. Every decision carried the weight of public perception, cultural commentary, and media amplification. The line between managing a crisis and fueling it was razor thin. And all the while, the joke continued to reverberate across the theater and the world. The first wave of laughter and shock was only the beginning. The viral momentum was unstoppable, and every person backstage knew that the night was now unpredictable. What had started as a scripted, glamorous awards show had become a live case study in cultural influence, celebrity scrutiny, and public spectacle. The chaos backstage was not limited to practical concerns. it was emotional, too. For Meghan, the need to maintain composure while processing humiliation, public scrutiny, and strategic calculation was intense. For her team, the pressure of managing optics in real time was exhausting. For security and production staff, the challenge was keeping the event running smoothly while monitoring a volatile mix of audience reactions, social media fallout, and celebrity dynamics. Every heartbeat, every decision, every glance mattered. Within seconds of Chris Rock delivering the infamous "Yappy *TCH" line, the world outside the Gotham Film Awards theater exploded. What had begun as a single, perfectly timed joke became a global social media phenomenon, spreading across platforms faster than anyone could track. TikTok clips looped endlessly, Instagram Reels dissected Meghan's every micro-expression, and X, formerly Twitter, erupted with reactions ranging from outrage to sheer amusement. This was no ordinary viral moment. It was a cultural earthquake, and the epicenter was a three-word punchline. The reaction was instantaneous. Fans and critics alike flooded social media with comments, emojis, and reactions. Within the first 5 minutes, the hashtag #YachtBitch was trending worldwide. Memes began to circulate, pairing Chris Rock's mischievous smirk with Meghan's poised, almost unreadable reaction. Influencers and content creators jumped into the fray, analyzing the delivery, speculating about Meghan's internal response, and creating videos breaking down the joke frame by frame. Each post fueled the next, creating an unstoppable chain reaction that pulled millions of people into the conversation in real time. TikTok, in particular, became a hub for rapid-fire commentary. Short clips of the joke, often juxtaposed with Meghan's subtle expressions, gained millions of views within the first hour. Users added comedic voiceovers, commentary, and humorous interpretations, turning the moment into a viral meme that transcended language and geography. Across continents, people were watching, sharing, and reacting simultaneously. Some laughed uncontrollably, others debated fiercely, and a few paused to reflect on the audacity and timing that made Chris Rock's performance so compelling. On X, the conversations were relentless. Thousands of posts per second analyzed every nuance. Chris's timing, Meghan's composure, the audience reaction, and the cultural implications of the joke. Supporters of Chris Rock praised his audacity, calling it a masterclass in live comedy and social commentary. Critics questioned whether it was appropriate, debating the ethics of targeting a specific individual with such a public and pointed joke. Others focused on Meghan's response, scrutinizing her facial expressions, posture, and even the way she blinked, treating her subtle cues as a form of micronews. Instagram stories and Reels provided another layer of intensity. Influencers with millions of followers dissected the moment, offering commentary, speculation, and comedic takes. Some created mashups, combining the footage with popular music or humorous effects, amplifying the viral nature of the joke. Others posted side-by-side comparisons of Meghan's expressions throughout the night, turning her poise into a focal point of analysis. The platform became a live gallery of reaction, reflection, and reinterpretation, a testament to the power of visual storytelling in real-time social media culture. Meanwhile, YouTube creators were quick to capitalize on the moment. Reaction videos, analysis clips, and breakdowns of Chris Rock's delivery flooded the platform. Within hours, channels with hundreds of thousands of subscribers posted videos dissecting every word, pause, and expression. The comment sections became forums of intense debate, ranging from humor appreciation to outrage, from memes to philosophical discussions about celebrity culture, privilege, and media influence. Each video added layers to the narrative, creating a feedback loop that amplified attention and ensured the moment would dominate news cycles for days. Even mainstream media couldn't keep up. Within minutes, entertainment reporters were scrambling to capture the viral trend. Headlines emerged. Chris Rock dares to roast Meghan Markle on live stage, and the joke that broke the internet. Yappy *TCH at Gotham Film Awards. News outlets combined clips, audience reactions, and social media commentary into articles that spread quickly, cementing the joke's place in the public consciousness. Television networks cut into programming to show the clip, analyzing the timing, delivery, and Meghan's reaction in what became a media-feeding frenzy. The virality wasn't limited to entertainment commentary. Analysts and cultural critics jumped in, interpreting the joke through various lenses. Some saw it as a critique of celebrity culture, privilege, and public perception. Others viewed it as a bold move in the ongoing narrative surrounding Meghan Markle, Chris Rock, and the intersection of royalty and Hollywood. Academics, journalists, and public figures weighed in, adding legitimacy to what began as a comedic punchline. The conversation transcended mere humor, morphing into a multi-layered discussion about fame, scrutiny, and the public appetite for spectacle. Fans of both Chris Rock and Meghan engaged in heated debates. Some applauded the joke as clever, daring, and historically funny, while others defended Meghan, arguing that the public targeting of her personal life crossed a line. Memes, commentary videos, and reaction posts spread like wildfire, ensuring that everyone from casual viewers to media experts had a stake in the unfolding story. Every new post, tweet, or clip acted like a domino, pushing the narrative further and embedding it into the cultural conversation. Even those not directly following the awards show became aware of the moment through social media's rapid amplification. People scrolling through feeds in cafes, on buses, and at work paused mid-scroll to watch the clip, share their opinions, and join the debate. The viral spread transcended traditional entertainment news, creating a moment that felt omnipresent, unavoidable, and intensely engaging. The world, it seemed, was united by a joke, a smirk, and a subtle facial expression, all captured in perfect timing by the cameras. As the digital storm raged, Meghan's team worked furiously behind the scenes to assess potential fallout. They monitored trending hashtags, viral posts, and public sentiment in real time, preparing strategies for statements, media appearances, or controlled silence. Every social media metric mattered. Engagement, sentiment, reach, and virality were all critical indicators of public perception. Decisions had to be made in real time, with the awareness that any misstep could amplify negative commentary or fuel unintended narratives. Meanwhile, Chris Rock's social media presence flourished. Clips of him delivering the line were shared with captions emphasizing timing, boldness, and comedic genius. Memes, GIFs, and remix videos proliferated. The global conversation had been hijacked, not by scandal or controversy alone, but by comedy that struck a nerve, balanced audacity with precision, and left millions unable to look away. By the end of the first hour, it was clear social media had transformed a single joke into a full-blown cultural phenomenon. Conversations were happening everywhere, from casual online chatter to professional commentary. Celebrities, influencers, and everyday users were all engaged, creating a feedback loop that amplified attention.